Welcome, welcome. If you're watching the recording, check the timestamps in the description to see when we actually start this thing. I'm going to hang out here for a little bit and let some folks join us live. Nadia, welcome. It's going to be a bit boring for a few minutes. Who's here? Jennifer, good morning in Arizona. Oh, it's early. Kathy, good afternoon. I got an idea, and I'm gonna write it down. Linda, welcome. Nice to see you on here. I think we're about ready to start. Feels like there's a button I'm forgetting to press. I'm guessing that's Lori saying hello. Doesn't let me see your name, but I have a feeling that's you. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Shall we just jump into it? I feel unprepared, but we're just going to show up and see what happens. Welcome to the program. This is Holding Space for Love to be Seen. My name's Tiger. I pretend to be the host and take you on a little journey into life beyond the mind's chaos. That's a good way to put it. What's really happening beyond what I think is happening? We took a week off. Normally, this is a weekly program, but last week I was a bit tied up. And so we're back, and it feels like it's been forever. I'm a little confused about what this program is and what it is we do here. But it is time for this to happen. So we're going to do it. I'm super excited about the title, though, today. I'll dig into why, but let me inform you about the format. Maybe this is your first time watching, and there's a way we go about this for the hour-long experience, and that starts with the introduction. This is the introduction. Then we're going to take 2 minutes of stillness where I'm not going to say anything. I'm just going to sit here and allow myself to be present. It really helps me calm down. It really helps me to be present. And so I invite you into that, especially if you're going to hang out for an hour. See if you can enjoy 2 minutes to just allow yourself to be here and settle down any anxiousness that might be around and honor the space and time we have today to dive into these things. After that stillness, I'm going to run my mouth on the topic today, which is the Heart-Based Solopreneur. That'll be 35, 40 minutes, even though today I wish I had about 3 hours, given the things I want to dig into. But we're going to squeeze it in to 35, 40 minutes. And then typically after that is the Q&R section, questions and reflections. For those people watching live, they can type in their questions or insights, and I can speak to those things. Then we will finish up with a super short and sweet guided meditation. 5, 10 minutes long. It's kind of a chance to assimilate the things we dove into today. And then that'll be it. And so welcome everyone. Some more folks joining us. We're going to start with that 2 minutes of stillness and just be here. So let's do that right now. Okay. I feel much better after that 2 minutes. Thanks for enjoying that with me. Oh, it's such a great reminder that I just get to take my time. And even though I playfully wrote this beautiful outline of things I'd like to talk about, I really don't have to talk about any of it. I mean, let's get real. right? I don't. Because primarily I'm here to just hold space. And if we get to it, we get to it. If not, it can still be a beautiful opportunity to hang out and arises. Because this topic is near and dear to my heart, not only because of my own journey, but also because of the journey I see my friends go through and other people I talk to and how important it is to them. And so I give this kind of stuff quite a bit of consideration. The topic today, the heart-based solopreneur. What does that mean? Well, solopreneur essentially means a one-person business. It's like you're an entrepreneur, but you don't have a huge team. You don't have a bunch of employees. You are simply offering a product or a service and making money doing so. That's awesome. Then there's the what I call heart-based solopreneur. And the way that I describe that is somebody who wants to genuinely add value to people's lives. Someone who wants to connect deeply with other human beings and offer their time and resources, their knowledge, their skills in a subtle way of loving on someone. How's that sound? Right? It's like you just enjoy sharing what you've learned. You've enjoyed growing in a particular area in your life. You've learned a bunch, and you would just love to share that with other people. And this can come in numerous ways, my goodness. But then the solopreneur aspect of it is like asking the question, how can I take my passion for loving on people, for adding value to their lives, and making a decent living or an abundant living? It's all super relative. And this combines two things that I'm passionate about. Number one is holding space, which is showing up and loving on people. The second is business. I'm a huge fan of business, and I have been for quite some time. And I've been a big fan of making money on my own and not being an employee, mostly out of survival because I was a terrible employee. And I haven't been in an employee role for, my goodness, how long? 16 years, 15 years, something like that. And I've been doing this form of work, sharing insight and wisdom, holding space, for about a decade. And it's fascinating to look at my journey over that decade because, in one way, I'm profoundly grateful for the struggle and the journey and the what I'm going to call slow growth in figuring out how to do this in a profitable and sustainable way. But then I also look back and it's kind of funny how long it took to get in the position that I'm in now. And I see so many, we'll call them playful mistakes, so many incorrect mindsets that pushed away opportunity. And then just general fears that delayed me fully stepping in to my role. And so it's kind of funny. I mean, I'm where I'm at now and I'm super stoked about it. And so no complaints because I'm here now. And looking back, it's just super cute. And then also in my work with supporting other people in seeing themselves, others in life more clearly, I also recognize that there's so many people out there who have value that they would love to share with the world or share with just a few people. And at the same time, I see a lot of the same mindsets that I had in the beginning that are only going to create problems. And then also there's just the general confusion of how do I make that transition? Where do I start? And so in my playful contemplation of these things, I've just been spending so much time writing and simplifying my own process. Like, okay, what is it about this that actually makes it work? And what are the mind shifts that are required? Essentially, going from employee thinking to business owner slash investor thinking. And there's such a world of difference between the two. And it makes a huge difference in how you spend your time, how you interpret experiences, and what you're looking for long term. Because typically, and again, just typically, in employee based thinking, we bring an attitude of trying to change our or exchange our time for money. We're still trying to get paid by the hour, and we're caught in this trap where we're trying to charge less than somebody else or a certain amount that we think other people can pay, but it has to be just enough so that we can pay our bills. And as far as I'm concerned, when it comes to running a business, that's kind of a terrible strategy. And so, I'm not sure how much of that I'm going to get into here, but what I do want to explore is simplifying the process of becoming a heart-based solopreneur. And as I mentioned, I did write this outline. It was part of the pre-broadcast reflections, which is a blog post that I write before I go live. And if you didn't receive that or find that, I invite you to read that because it has this decent outline of me simplifying the process, what I think is important to understand first. And it's a great read if you're into this kind of stuff. And I don't know how much of it I'm going to get into, but I think we'll just kind of breeze our way through it. So let's do that. Z, I see you showing up. Welcome, sweetheart. Nice to have you here. Okay, so being a heart-based solopreneur, who is that for? Well, I think what's most important before we get into this is acknowledging the value of having a job. That so often when we're confused about our own lives, when we're confused about our own worth, when we're comparing ourselves to other people, we're always kind of looking to do what somebody else is doing and not really taking advantage of where we're at. And I think for a lot of people, having a job is perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with that concept as it relates to supporting somebody else's vision, supporting somebody else's service, and giving your time to that in exchange for a value, money, that allows you to support yourself. I think that's super beautiful. In fact, I mean, my employees, I don't necessarily want them to not be my employees. It's like you got to find a good fit. And so let that be recognized that I'm not suggesting that everyone should do this. In addition to that, there's the opportunity to do something in addition to your job. Maybe we call that a side hustle, where you take a few hours a week, 5 to 10 to 20 hours, and you put your energy towards offering value in a way that excites your heart. Now, if this was me in a job, in fact, this is somewhat of the journey that I had where I was in a job that didn't necessarily resonate with my being. I just felt like I was pushing papers around, but yet I couldn't necessarily leave the job because I had bills to pay. I had to find a project that I could engage in that allowed me to live with enthusiasm, where it's like I knew that I didn't have to stay at this job, that I could create an opportunity for myself to eventually leave one day if I chose, or I could simply continue to do both and not rely on the job to be my only source of income. So that's something to explore. And then, in addition to that, maybe you're also like me where you just don't want to be an employee. You don't want to show up on somebody else's time. And again, some people are totally fine with that. And you want more freedom to travel around, explore the playground called planet Earth, and have diverse experiences, more options. And if that's you, then what a great time to be alive. Because from my assessment, offering value and creating income has never been easier. And in many ways, I can see that it's only going to get more easy. But it blows my mind how simple it can be to generate enough income to just support yourself and not have a crazy lifestyle, but just to be able to house yourself, to feed yourself, and save a little bit of money, essentially. And it speaks to one of those mind shifts because I can imagine there's a lot of people in the job world who's like, no, it's not easy. It's super hard and it's complicated. But when you break it down as to what's really happening as a solopreneur in the context that I'm pointing to it, is it's very simple. And this is part 2 of my outline. It's all about adding genuine and unique value. Do you see the simplicity in this? That the only thing that's happening is you are offering value and then getting paid for that value. And granted, the value you offer is going to be relatively valuable to different people in the regard that to some people it's not valuable and to other people it's life-changing valuable. And so one of the key points here is you have to communicate to the people it's valuable to. And then let's also look at the simplicity of value, meaning, and I say this just as illustration purposes, given a particular skill set, you only have to be 1 year ahead of somebody else in that skill set in order to provide value to someone who's interested in being a year further along than they are now. Granted, you could also be 10 years along. The point being that what would be a great example of this? Cooking. You could have spent a year in a deep dive learning how to cook a particular style of food, right? Let's say Indian food. And it's a passion of yours. For whatever reason, you love it and you enjoy it. And so you've spent a year learning how to cook Indian food. Now, in today's world, with as connected we are as human beings and our search for information to help us grow and learn, there are people all over the world looking to learn how to cook Indian food. Now, there's going to be, I'm going to say some, but really a lot of people that are going to find all this information and they're essentially going to say, okay, but can you just help me? Can you just help me do this? Rather than me trying to go through all this information. You see, you took the time to go through all the information, which took a year. And they're starting and they're looking at all this information and they're going to say, geez, this is going to take me a year. And then they come across you who's already taken that journey and you can save them 9 months of time for them to reach the desired outcome. Okay, so essentially what you're offering is to save them 9 months of time, right? 9 months of time for them to connect with an outcome that they're genuinely passionate about. So to the degree that they want that outcome is the degree that they're willing to pay for it. And so you find people who are just as passionate as you are, but are not as far along as you are. And then you offer to support. That's just the basic simplicity. And you see all the different ways that can be expressed. I mean, you can just ask yourself, what are you passionate about? What excites you? What are you interested in? What are you curious about? And can you see that you're not the only one? And can you see that you'll never be the only one? Meaning that there are always new people who are discovering that interest, discovering that passion. And those people are always going to be looking for help, for support. And the beauty of this, and I'm partly just speaking about my own journey here. The beauty of this is you take what you're passionate about, and one of the ways that you deepen your learning in that passion is to share what you discover. And so you're providing information for free, essentially, right? Like case in point, this video, it's free. Case in point, a lot of the things that I write, it's all free. I'm sharing my discoveries. And then along the way, as more and more people enjoy those discoveries, every once in a while, there's somebody that says, hey, this is great and all, but can you just help me? Right? Can you just help me directly? And then there's a conversation about it, which is really, really beautiful because, as I've mentioned before, my intent, my strategy is to spend 80% of my time learning, growing, and sharing for free. Because even as I'm sharing, even as I'm creating content, it's a learning opportunity for me. It's a growing opportunity. And so it's like I'm giving to myself. And then 20% of my time would be actually working to make money, like helping people directly. And for me, that's just a great system where I'm not exhausted working. I can take 20% of my time and just focus intently on the few people that I'm really offering value to directly. And there's 10,000 ways to offer value like this. And my interest is exploring and supporting people who essentially want to hold space. And that holding space takes place in a number of different ways. Whether you are providing people an experience in massage, you're holding space. Whether you are teaching somebody a skill that adds value to their lives, you're holding space. Whether you're just sharing your knowledge and support, it's holding space. And again, I'm just getting a flood of ideas that people can do to offer value. I mean, like, for example, say that you had a long career in a particular field. And so you know that field really, really well. And then there's other people wanting to enter that field, but they're nervous, they're scared, all the things that you were, only to find out that you didn't need to be scared, right? So there's a value there where you can help guide people through that journey. And that's just really, really great. And again, not only does it have to be direct support one-on-one, which is my favorite, but it can also be sharing a bunch of information and then collating that information into a particular product. And this is super basic stuff, but I guess that's the point of this video, is just to reiterate how possible this really is. You know what? That's something that I did years ago, where I had this huge library of content and it was all free. But then I took the content and I structured it in like a course, right? It was all free, it was all out there. But I created this product where it's like, okay, you don't have to search around all this stuff. I picked the best of da 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 da. And I was amazed that people actually paid for it, even though they knew it was out there. But you know what? This also speaks so much to the opportunity of building community around what you share and what you're passionate about, because those people will want to support your work. And if they really enjoy your work, then they're willing to pay. Let's just go straight to it. Save me time. So lots of options there. One thing that I focus on is that I look at my own journey and I look at my major points of transformation, right? Like, what are the struggles I've been through? What are the fears I walked through? And what was the discovery on the other end? And again, this could be through so many things, so many different topics. And so I've recognized that, oh, I really understand XYZ struggle. I've been through it multiple times. I know what it's like to be at the beginning. I know what it's like to be in the middle. And I know what it's like to be through it. And in my understanding of that struggle, I know that I could add value to someone's life who's in that struggle. I know that I could support them, right? I know that I could offer value. And it doesn't even have to be some overarching theme or topic. I was working with somebody and they had, this vision of just helping people. And it was just so incredibly broad. It wasn't well defined. And this is what I see most often, is there's 10 million people who are trying to help other people. But I don't understand why this is different than what anybody else is doing. And so we took a deep dive into her real offering, right? Like, okay, rather than just saying you're this person that helps people, what are you helping them with? Like, what is the transformation you understand the most about given your unique experience? And then let's message those people. Let's market to those people, right? Rather than trying to talk to everyone, let's talk to a very small subset of people who you can show them that this is your specialty, right? You don't do this, you don't do this, you don't do this. I'm really good at this, given my life experience. This is the one thing that I know. And then it became really obvious. It's like, oh, this is what I actually do. And it was something to the effect of supporting mothers and daughters struggling with some sort of issue. And that's a great value add, right? Because like, how many people have that struggle? How many people don't want to have that struggle? And how many people would be willing to pay for support to move beyond that struggle? And then the natural the natural argument that I always run into is you shouldn't charge for helping people through their struggles. This is hilarious to me, and it speaks to the mindset shift. And maybe this isn't an issue for you, but just this is hilarious, right? Like, okay, you could help somebody experience a better quality of life, and so you shouldn't charge for that. The insanity of this is that if I don't charge for it, then I can't keep doing it. Right? If I don't get compensated for the time that I put into it, then I have to go do something else to get compensated for my time to do this. So I can either go get a job and work for somebody else and do this work a little bit of the time for free, or I can get paid for it and I can take all my time and do much more of this work. And additionally, with the 80-20 thing that I was talking about, 80% of my time is spent helping people for free and only getting paid for 20% of my time. That's what I love about this sort of model, is that, yes, I cannot work with everyone directly. That's impractical. But what I can do is I can help lots of people for free, and then I can help a few people one-on-one. And those few people that I help directly, where I get into the nitty-gritty of their lives, they pay me to help everyone else for free. Tell me that's not awesome. Tell me that is not awesome. I love that. It's such a value add. In addition to that, in order for me to do what I do at the level that I do it, there's tools and resources that I need, right? There's services that I pay for, and those people have to get paid who develop those services. Everyone gets paid. A lot of the hang up is just our limited mindset around the concept of money and our own issues of lack, and then projecting it on other people. Okay, in addition to adding value, oh wow, I am not going to get through this outline. I'm supposed to move on to the Q&R next soon, but we'll keep going. Unique value. And this really speaks to not trying to do what other people are doing per se, but finding something that's unique about you. Really, what it speaks to is a freedom to just be yourself, right? Because when you take on projects or you try to be a business person, you're like, oh, okay, well, now I have to be this type of person. Now people have to think XYZ about me. And I think that's such a distraction, especially in the day that we live now. People are much more interested in connecting with your authenticity than they are about you pretending to be an expert. People would much rather experience your uniqueness than you matching the image of something. And then the reason why this is also valuable, again, in my experience, you know what? In fact, this is a story that I've told often, that when I first started sharing insight and wisdom, I saw that there was let's say a certain image, right? A certain image that went with talking about these kinds of things. And I knew I was not that image, right? Let's just say this, to be spiritual, right? There was a certain image to be a spiritual person. And I saw that I wasn't that. I saw the just be myself. I can't pretend to be this spiritual whatever. It's something that my heart's deeply in. I think it's incredibly beautiful and I love diving into it. But I'm just going to be a dude and then see how that goes. And you know what? A beautiful thing happened in the process where there were a lot of people who said, Tiger, you don't match the image, right? Like you should be different. And those people went away. But what that did is it created a deeper connection with the people who enjoyed what I did because they recognized the authenticity, right? They recognized that I wasn't trying to be something. I wasn't trying to match an image. I was essentially showing up in a unique and fresh sort of way, just being myself. And so part of the draw that we have with not being unique is because we're afraid of that sort of judgment. We're afraid of people not liking us, afraid of people thinking that we don't fit, uh, all that, right? It's like we want the world to like us rather than the few people who would like you for you. And so that's something to consider if you're going to actually, that's just in life. If you're going to explore this path of being one who adds value and running a business, be open to the possibility that you can do this and just be yourself. You can do this and have all of your human stuff, right? Like you don't have to be perfect. You don't have to be an expert because all you're doing is saying, I've been through that before and here's what I saw. Maybe it'll be helpful, right? It doesn't mean I have every area of my life figured out. It just means I've been there and I'd be willing to support you. And for me, that's so much more beautiful than encountering someone who's pretending to have their shit together because you ultimately find out they don't. Something to play with. The next part about this is authentic simplicity over pretentious complexity. I love simplicity, even though it's the one thing that I often find myself struggle with most, especially as it relates to running a business. a tendency to overcomplicate things and wanting to do more than what's actually necessary. And when you're starting out in this path, it can look super complicated, right? It's like, oh, I've got to have a website up. I have to have a newsletter. I have to be on social media, build an image of ourselves. I recommend that there's a vital step before all of that. And it speaks to the authentic simplicity of what's really happening in the business that you're providing. And this always comes down to, for me, authentic human connection in such a way that you don't need a website to get started. You don't need to be on social media to get started. You don't need any of those things. What you need is an understanding of the value that you offer, and then the willingness to engage meaningful conversations and connections with other human beings. And I know that might seem like a stretch, especially when there's so many bells and whistles out there that you could sign up for and engage in. And yes, those other things might be helpful down the road. They will be. But there's this authentic simplicity that's the core of it all. And if you don't have that, then you're going to get drowned out in the noise of all the bells and whistles. You're going to think that those things are the answer rather than just helpful tools that help you communicate your value and message. And so that's something to explore a little bit, right? Before you get all lost in the complexity of the 10,000 things you have to do, see if you can connect with the authentic simplicity of the value you're offering, and to see that that value is shared through human connection, right? And I mean like genuine care, right? Like you look for people who are struggling with that issue, and then you love on them. And my God, again, there's so many things I want to talk about here. So many things. And I'm not going to be able to. That's fine. Something that I wrote down here under this part, don't try to be the expert who pretends to be something they're not. Instead, be yourself so you can attract and connect more deeply with other authentic human beings. Being fake attracts fake people. And that's why I love the theme of heart-based solopreneurs, because they get this. They're in it for the heart of the matter rather. Inality, you could directly support 20 to 100 people per year and pay your bills and live an abundant life. And that's something that blows people's minds, right? Because they think it's often a numbers game, right? Like I have to have 1,000 or I have to have 1 million followers or a million person reach. When in reality, and it could even be less than this, in reality, you could support directly 20 people a year and work it out in such a way that all your bills get paid with no problem. And again, this really speaks to what's possible in today's day and age with technology and connecting with other people, how easy this can be. And maybe that's a shift for you, right? Maybe that's a big shift for you. Maybe at one point you thought that it was just too much, right? Like, oh man, I've got to I have to help thousands of people for this to work. No, not really. You can help a few people every month and you can make it work. Number fourth, which I won't get into, but it's called the ability to focus and your willingness to fail. And I'll leave it at that. This is a big one. In fact, I'd say it's one of the biggest ones that I transform through. My ability to focus and my willingness to fail. Understanding that if I'm going to grow, if I'm going to learn, I have to fail. And then just opening up to that. And when you really open up to it, there's something that just happens. It's like you grow exponentially because you're not holding back. You're not afraid of failing. It's like, oh no, I'm going to fail. That's just part of it. That's fine. There's a beautiful openness there. Okay. We did it, kind of. We got our way through. If there are any questions from the live audience, now would be the time to write your questions. Or if there's anything else you might want me to talk about, then I can get into it. But I did want to leave some time here to connect with the live audience. Yeah, somebody said that's exactly what I'm already doing, just not making money. And that's the thing. If you're already doing this, if you're already adding value and you're getting feedback that it's valuable, like people are deeply appreciating what you're doing, then it's exponentially easier to start making money doing it. There's just a few tweaks that need to take place, which are really mindset shifts and being better at communicating the value of what you do. And this is a part that people often don't understand, where, they put up a website and they say, here's me, here's what I do. That doesn't communicate value, because people read that with their own lens, with their own interpretations. And since people tend to devalue themselves, they'll read your offering from that lens of devaluing themselves. And so part of communicating your value is helping other people see their value, to see that they're worth this particular opportunity. And I think that's super profound to realize that if people just read your website, and oftentimes people's websites in and of themselves don't really communicate value. It's more just information. And it in a way, it leaves so much opportunity on the table. And so just learning how to communicate better is a huge value add. Someone says, that's awesome. I completely see it. I am seeing lack all over the place in my daily life, keeping the me alive. I'm seeing it is the deepest cause to not letting go completely. Yeah. Yeah. Lack is a big one. Lack is a big one in the way that it keeps you tied to an imaginary comfort zone. Right? It's like, I can't take risks. I can't step out. I can't take the possibility of failure because it might not work out. That's lack. And yet, for anything that worked out for anyone, they had to take those risks. They had to they had to let go. And that's what I love about stories of people's success. There's always that moment, right? There's always that moment where they're faced with a decision to honor their, let's call, heart's passion, or a decision to retreat back to what's perceived to be safe and secure. But in that perceived safety and security, there's a rejection of your own heart, right? It's like telling that little child inside of yourself, no, you can't play. No, you can't enjoy yourself. No, you can't go explore life because you might get rejected. And that's a tragedy. That's a tragedy to live this life and not allow yourself to go on a great adventure. And for me, business is a great adventure. For me, adding value to people's lives is an extraordinary adventure. Yeah, and I'm just constantly blown away at the opportunities I have to connect open-heartedly with other human beings and explore the world. And it's just such a great gift. And I can see the ways I denied myself that gift because I thought people wouldn't like what I have to say. I thought people wouldn't like how I looked. At the time when I started this journey, I was like 100 more pounds than I am now, 45 more kilos. And so that was a big struggle. Like, no, you can't do this because you look how you look. And it's all just lack. It's all just subtle ways of trying to trick ourselves from letting go. We are masters at coming up with excuses. I'm reading some comments here. You guys are so sweet. Heidi says, I'm afraid to fail as I witness in my son's manslaughter trial. If way off topic, just forget. Yeah, a little off topic, but sorry to hear about your struggle. Nadia says, I created educational kits for children. Like you said, I shared my story on website, but I feel like now I'm ready to continue my mindset shift to increase my sales by communicating the value of my learning art kits. I never had parents share meaningful moments with me. So now after having my son, I dedicated the crucial years of early development to read to my son, do art activities, share my time. That is exactly what I'm talking about, Nadia. Exactly. You took your own struggle, you discovered a huge value, and now you want to share that value. And in what you're doing and what you're sharing with me here, there's no way that can't work. No way. Because there are other people, other parents with the exact same struggle. And it's a painful struggle. And it doesn't have to be that way. As you've experienced, right? You're like, oh, this is actually so much easier than I thought it was. And so you help other people see how easy it is, right? Because their mind's like making up all these excuses about their worth and value. Their mind's making up impossible strategies that just don't work. And so you come in and you're like, hey, this can actually be fun and easy. Let me show you how. Yeah. But get in touch with me. I want to hear more about what you're doing. And yeah, because that's great. And then let me know if anything I'm saying is confusing and what you want to be more clear. That's great. Natalie says, I offer kayak and paddleboard rentals, having hard time making it known, trying to not see it as a self-reflection, learning to value my self-compassion, telling myself I can do it because I have not telling myself I can't do it because I have not fully learned how to show compassion to myself. I don't want to take it to those I am sharing the value of my business with. Oh, I don't want to fake it to those I am sharing. Oh, but that's part of the value. Part of the value is you not being all the way there yet. The pretending is the antithesis of value. That's the pretense that will actually push people away. But when you can show up authentically and other people see that, then authentic people are going to appreciate your authenticity and you're wanting to connect with authentic people. And so those who don't value your authenticity probably are not the kind of people you want to be working with. But as it relates to that kind of service, offer kayak and paddleboard rentals. And I don't have much experience with that kind of stuff. But when you say having a hard time making it known, I would bet that there's a huge opportunity to find new ways to communicate the experience that you're selling. Do you know what I mean by that? Like, you're not offering kayak and paddleboard rentals, right? That's not really what you're doing. You're inviting people to have an experience. You're inviting people to explore something that maybe they've never done before and add adventure to their lives. Right now, um, that's like a small value, right? Because a lot of people do that. And if you communicate it that way, it's not very cool. Right now, you can imagine that you can communicate it in another way where somebody says, "Oh, wow, that would be awesome." Right now it's more value, which also means it's more expensive. And then in addition to that, you have an offer that goes way above and beyond just renting paddleboard, right? You offer a guided experience of some kind, right? And it's a lot of money. And you don't need everyone to do that giant offer. You don't have the time for it. But you could once or twice a month provide that one giant offer, and that one giant offer pays all your bills for the month. And then the rentals is just kind of like extra income, right? But you have to be able to sell that giant offer, that giant experience as a huge value add. And there's, again, lots of creative ways to communicate that. Z says she's looking forward to more of these talks. Yeah, me too. I don't think I'm going to do them so much here on Insight Timer. But I'll be in touch with you, Z, about where that will be happening. I think I'm going to keep going with my original intent on Insight Timer, talking about the just holding space for love to be seen. But every once in a while, I might talk about this stuff on here. But I am going to be spending a lot more of my time. I have been the past month kind of preparing to help people in this arena. Okay. We're up on an hour. And we're going to do a short little guided meditation. I don't know what it's going to be about, but let's just settle in and see what happens. Yeah? Okay, let's do that. Welcome to this super short and sweet guided meditation. We can follow the breath back to right now. And in the most simple way, we are just acknowledging that this is where we are right now. I love this space. It's a great reminder that all is well here, right now. No matter what I'm imagining, it's not actually here. And so I can take a moment to let go of the mind's content and connect with life. Can we recognize the vast emptiness of this moment? The emptiness in such a way that you could be thinking about 10,000 things, but none of it's actually happening. There's a stillness here. And in this stillness is a blank canvas. This life, a blank canvas. It's a blank canvas that invites you to create, invites you to imagine, invites you to play. And if we just take a moment to start over, maybe we can start to see a lot more possibility. Maybe we are not nearly as limited as we imagine ourselves to be. That's fun to see, all the ways I limit myself in the imagination. And then to see that it's not true at all. It leads me to the question of, well, what is really possible then? In what ways might I enjoy this human experience? In what ways might I sing, dance, and share my heart? Because do you see all the limitation that says we can't do these things? It is only a limitation in the mind. It's only a story that says you can't that says you're not worthy, that says you're not enough. It's only a story believed in. Maybe it's time to move beyond that story. Maybe it's time to get profoundly honest with yourself about that story. Maybe you've been using that story, to hide, using that story to avoid taking risks, using that story to avoid the world's rejection, which is only using that story to reject yourself. That doesn't feel good. No. Can we open up to step into a deeper possibility? And let's say a deeper possibility to share our heart with the world, to add genuine value, to love on people. And to open up to the possibility that life is 100% in support of this. Of you allowing what you are to be in service to life in ways that align with whatever inspires your heart. Okay. Go play. Thanks for meditating with me today. All right. Thanks for hanging out with me. If you donated, thank you. If you didn't, thank you. Don't hesitate to send me any questions. Helps me come up with content, gives me things to question and explore. And I like hearing from you. I think that's it. We'll be back next week. Same time, same place. Bye. You're welcome.